Welcome to our second bonus episode of Read, Watch, Play. This week we are joined by our first ever guest on the show and our first ever published author, Rebecca DiTore. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, Nick. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Now, Nick and I have known Becca for a long time, almost as long as Nick and I have known each other. We probably met in middle school. And Becca, when did you move to Hebron Horsham?
So I moved in sixth grade.
Okay, sixth grade.
I started at KV, yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Becca was married to one of our best friends, Mike DiTore. Nick, Mike, and I all went to the same elementary school in the Philly burbs and were thick as thieves with our crew back in the day. We grew up together playing sports, going to the movies, and eventually graduating to the middle school where Mike met Becca. Yes, you heard that Mike and Becca met each other was it 2006? Would that have been? What year did we start at Keith Valley? I don't even know.
What year did we start?
No, 2006 would have been high school.
We met.
That would have been eighth grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. We officially started dating in 2006, which was freshman year of high school. But
yeah, it would have been before that.
Started, we started in eighth grade. The romance started in eighth grade.
Yeah, as mature as relationships can be then.
Yeah.
In 2021, Mike was diagnosed with brain cancer and passed away in 2022 at the age of 30, leaving behind Becca and their two children, Dante and Dominic. Over the past year, you have written. How long has the writing been going on?
Since probably around this time last year, maybe May last year, I started. I decided I was going to go for it.
Yeah. So over the past year, she has written a book and will be releasing it digitally next week on Amazon. That's April 30th, titled "I'd Still Choose You," chronicling her journey not only with Mike, but with his cancer diagnosis, passing, and all that comes after. And it will be releasing in physical form a week after. Is that correct? On May 7th.
Yep.
Yeah. So this episode, we wanted to bring Becca on, not only to share details about the upcoming book, but also to celebrate some of the stories that Mike loved and that we have memories of with him. This podcast is about stories, and her book is really the story of her journey with Mike. So it's very fitting to have her on here to chat more about that. First of all, you wrote a book. Congratulations. That feels crazy to say. That's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it's starting to hit me that I'm about to be super exposed. It's all just that's making me a little anxious, but it's crazy that it's so soon.
I know. And I was thinking about, because I don't think, even though we went to middle school and high school together, I don't think we were ever in the same class. So also you doing something like academic, like writing, it's just a foreign thing to me. So have you always been a writer, or was this a new foray that started as just a way to process what was going on?
I always liked to write, I think, but I never thought much of it. College essays and resumes and just silly things like that, I'd actually get some enjoyment out of playing with. But I never, and I journal about things. I would write letters to my kids and a journal, and I like to write, there wasn't anything that really inspired me, I guess, until this.
Yeah.
And then it did become a form of therapy for me,
mm-hmm.
Which is why I really dived into it.
Yeah.
And when you say that, are you talking about when you're writing your blog, was that form of therapy, or the book, or both?
So I started blogging while Mike was sick. It was, I don't know. After his first round of treatment and all that, we decided, one, people would always ask me how Mike was doing, and it was very overwhelming for me to update people, especially when the updates were not usually good.
Yeah.
And it was I just couldn't keep up with it. So I thought it was a way to share what was going on with people without having to answer messages. But also it was giving people a glimpse into what we were experiencing made me feel a little seen. I was able to get my thoughts out and process it through writing. So it was good for me. But then I did connect with a lot of people through it. on social media, and people would send me a message, just maybe they were experiencing something similar. They were a caregiver, or they lost a dad or someone to brain cancer. And then that was like even more so a
Mhm.
form of therapy to like make these connections.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask, this seems silly after that. What type of student was Becca Machete? Like, what did you excel in school? Like, was it the language arts classes?
No, I was so afraid. I don't even know. Like gym class, like I don't even know. I don't think I was like really good at. I definitely was so afraid of
Yeah.
public speaking in high school and middle school. Like not now though. Like it doesn't even faze me. It doesn't
Yeah.
really even in college. I feel like I was okay with it, but in high school, definitely not. Maybe writing. I don't know. There was nothing really that I feel like I was like. Like I went to college and I was like, what? I'm not exactly sure what I wanted to do. Like there was nothing. It wasn't like I was super good at math. I guess
Yeah.
maybe math was like better than English, but no, I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's funny because I would always be like, I was like book smart. Like I loved to study for exams and like,
Yeah, you're a
and then
planner.
like and then Mike was always just like common sense, like like the most basic things that he's like, how do you not know that? But we were just so different in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, cliche to say, Mike is street smarts. He
Yeah.
has such good like awareness of just like what was going on around him and how to navigate situations, like the definition of street smart.
Yeah.
So I know you moved to Hebrow Horsham in 2000. What would that have been? 4 in 6th grade. Where did you live before then? I don't even know. I was thinking about that.
I grew up in Lansdale.
Okay.
Like with my family
Okay.
and my brothers. And then I guess 2004 is probably like,
Yeah.
I finished out school there through 5th grade. We moved, started middle school in Hebrow Horsham in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because then we moved to Horsham, then Mike and I moved back to Lansdale, and then I moved back to Horsham.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So those were like the only 2 places I ever lived. But
Yeah.
so I grew up in Lansdale.
Okay, nice. What was also funny hearing you kind of recount the relationship to people who were like incredulous that you'd been together, for so long, was also just hearing your side of like the courting of the relationship, where it was like really funny hearing you describe it because, Nick and I were on the other side. Like I was just, as you were talking about like writing notes in Mr. Sullivan's class and stuff like that, I remember like Mike talking to you on like AIM, and we'd be sitting around the computer like planning to go to like the movies for the weekend. It was just really funny to hear you describe it, and I'm also like, wow, we are old that I remember you guys chatting on AOL Instant Messenger, which I should probably say for the people who don't know what that is anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Becca,
Yeah.
what was your AIM name?
Yeah, well,
Do you remember?
I feel like I made a new one like every week. I feel like I always made a new one. I can't remember what it was. There was one that was just like Rebecca Lee with like multiple H's at the end. And
that
then
sounds familiar. Yeah.
but I can't I feel like we just like always made new ones. I know
Yeah.
Mike's was Yo, It's Me, Mike D.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
his family would always be Yo, It's Me, and it's Mike, Yo, It's Me. So yeah, but I don't remember what mine was. Do you?
I was Hanky 007.
I don't know why that's embarrassing, but it is.
It's so cringy.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
it's the worst.
They all are.
Yeah, it just happens. So for people who are listening who aren't as familiar with you as we are, can you give us just a little bit, as much detail as you want, just kind of like, from when you met Mike, kind of up until, diagnosis, like just a little bit of that story and what that journey was like.
Yeah. So in 8th grade, I have a chapter in the book called Mr. Sullivan's 8th grade math class
Saw
because that was like where we met. Like and it's funny because recently I went back to Heath Valley for a day because Jordan's mom works there and she took me around, and I went in the classroom. It was like so crazy to like walk through those halls again. But we met there. I mean, I just remember like we would pass notes back and forth, like you said. Like I even put like a couple of the notes in the book, and it's like it's so cringy. But we'd write notes, and it was just like we'd date and then break up, and then date and then break up like 100 times.
Yeah.
I remember like I was on the bus with I don't remember who, but a couple girls. Then he was in the car getting picked up from school, and his mom and his sister were in the car. And I remember like us calling him from the bus, being like, "You have to ask her out. Like she's not gonna break up with you this time." And it was just like that. Like we would just like go out and break up all the time. And then in freshman year of high school, we were at the homecoming dance, and he officially asked me, and then it stuck. We lasted from there. So that was November 18th, 2006. We dated through high school. We broke up once in college for like a couple weeks, maybe a month. That was like very traumatic.
Didn't last long.
It did, but it didn't last very long. We got back together, stayed together through college. Like he would visit me all the time. I'd visit him at Seton Hall. And then we graduated. We got engaged. Like life was going just as we planned. Got married, had a beautiful wedding. We're super excited to grow our family. Had our first son, Dante, in 2019. I had to think about that for a second.
2019.
January
wow.
of 2019. Yeah. He's 5 now.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry. He's like grown boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, like we're trying to ride a bike without training wheels, like doing all this big kid stuff. And it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Which is also really, really hard to teach. I'm like, you just do it. Like
pedal.
you just pedal. Like it's like just balance. Like, just keep yourself. But it's very complicated. So like into baseball and like so he's like a big kid now. So he's 5. And then a couple months before Dante turned 2, our second son, Dominic, was born. He's now 3. So about 5 months after Dominic was born, Mike started having some weird symptoms, and he was very into fitness, working out all the time. Like through college, him and his roommate like completely transformed their lives and started eating well and exercising, and it really became a passion of Mike's. So he'd be downstairs working out in our garage because it was like when I was pregnant with my second son, it was like COVID. So he like created a gym in our garage, and he'd wake up and go work out. And he noticed that he was having trouble gripping his dumbbells when we were when he was working out in the garage. And we didn't think much of it at first. We thought maybe he just like hurt himself working out, had carpal tunnel or something insignificant. I remember at Dominic's baptism, I was talking to his college roommate and best friend Rocky, and I was like, yeah, Mike's like starting to get worried about this, and I keep telling him like, it's just, you just probably hurt yourself, like it's not a big, like, stop freaking out, because Mike was never one to like jump the gun, get like anxious about things. Like he was so chill all the time,
so
like,
calm.
Yes, like that was me, and he was like the calm to my storm. And so it started to get worse, and he started to have other issues. He'd be like holding a drink and just like drop it. He was tripping around the house, tripping up the steps. And then obviously we realized like something else is going on here. And so we went to a neurologist. We started thinking he had like ALS or something, which was obviously we were freaking out. This doctor did the testing and confirmed it was not ALS. Kind of brushed us off, like thinking he's maybe just like a hypochondriac a little bit, like making this more than it is. But we were like, something's going on here. Like this isn't Mike. So she gave us a referral for an MRI, which was like a long wait. So like we got in with a family friend was able to get us into his MRI centers a little quicker. So we went, because at that point he was having what he called brain fog, which just from his explanation seemed like confusion, like fuzziness in his brain. And he was really just like disconnected from what was going on in our lives, because he was like super hands-on with everything with the kids all the time. And then just like would slowly stop participating in like bath time and bedtime routines, and like kind of jumping to like take care of a need if something came up. It was like a slow progression where he just like was disconnecting. So we went to get the MRI. I remember waiting in the room and looking at each other and him being like, maybe I am just like making a big deal out of this. Maybe it's nothing. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And then almost immediately I get a call, and I remember him saying, this is not a normal MRI, after he came back out from the scan room. And he was like, you got to go to the hospital. His brain had a lot of swelling. And they thought it was like a rare manifestation of MS at first,
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't really present as tumors. And there was so much swelling, I don't think they could get a good idea of what like the masses that they saw in the scan were. So we went to the hospital. He was on steroids. They did every test you can think of. But it really wasn't until he was transferred to Jefferson for a biopsy that they could tell us that they were actually tumors.
And Dante was 6 months old around then? What year was...
Dominic, so this was like spring of 2021. So Dante just turned 2 in January.
Just turned 2, okay.
And Dominic was 6 months or so.
Okay.
So Mike was in the hospital for like a week. He went to Jefferson. They did the biopsy because they couldn't actually like remove the tumors because of where they were, but they could take a little sample of it to confirm and do testing to tell us the genetic analysis of it to like hopefully direct us in the right, direct us to like a tailored treatment. So I remember being at his parents' house and getting the call from the surgeon, and they were like, he's getting stitched up. Everything went well. But they were tumors.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days later, we got the call confirming it was cancer. And so brain cancer is in stages or grades. I'm sorry, not stages, like a lot of other cancers. So grade 4 is a more aggressive, and he was diagnosed with a grade 3 anaplastic astrocytoma, and he had 2 of them at the time. So we started the treatment process. He had 6 weeks of radiation. We would go back and forth to Jefferson. His dad drove him along because, again, like I had the kids at home. They weren't in daycare or anything because I was only working part-time. His mom would help. His dad would drive him to Jefferson a lot of that time. But, I mean, that our entire life just changed in that moment.
Upturned,
like everything changed. I mean, we knew that the doctor told us on the phone that there was no cure, but they would hope to treat him and that he could live years with it, but there was no predicting it.
Do you remember at what point, like you said, you had started to do the blog because you were just getting so many questions from people, just kind of asking, how things were going, what was happening. Did you start just kind of writing personally? And then like, what was the first germ of the idea of like, I could like just publish this, like write this on a blog? Like when was that like that? Was that a slow burn or like a conscious decision? Like how did that happen?
It was a slow burn, probably. I was never like a very public person on, so like I'd post, my kids or something, but I was never like,
they're adorable, so it makes sense.
I was never like open like that. So, and I feel like a lot of the in the beginning, we kind of kept a lot of it to ourselves unless people would ask. Like I shared at one point, like I remember saying something like, over the last several weeks, we've been dealing with this, and Mike posting a couple things. But no, it really wasn't until, he went through treatment. He was doing well, I should say, like in terms of the skin, but no day was good. Like he was always sick. He was always something from the treatment. But for a while after his first round of radiation, he had a really good scan. And I think we were in a really good place at the time. And I felt the need to like explode with like all this information of what we just went through and fill people in, because it was, again, like we were sort of getting good news, but it was still really bad, but we were still getting some good news. So I was like, this is like, I just needed to like get it off my chest. So it was like, it wasn't right away that I started writing. There were probably like 5 months into it that I decided to share more public about the experience.
Yeah. And then I'm sure starting to realize at some point, like how helpful this could be for other people, and even just like looking at the chapter titles, like towards the end of, the lessons, I think Lessons from Grief is the one title where you probably realize just like all of this information you had collected in your brain and like we're starting to put down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you like going through that experience, you feels like you have friends and family and like strangers, and like I remember people from high school like I didn't even really talk to, like would want to drop off a meal or like, and there was so much support, but you feel so isolated because no one can really understand, and like you get a glimpse of it, like this is what's work, like he's sick, he's not feeling well, like the chemo's making him sick, but like nobody, like knows what it means to like carry your husband to the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
or like walk him up the steps because he can't walk, or like to be constantly like giving him medication and him choking. Like there's things you don't you people can't understand until they live it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mhm.
like making those connections, and even like the inspiration for the book was that like when you can connect or like read that story, you feel so seen. And that is like so healing to like feel
Mm-hmm.
like someone can understand that, because
Yeah.
we're in our 30s. Like Mike was 29 when he was diagnosed. Like people were living life, like getting married, having kids, and like I just had that. I had everything, and then all of a sudden it was like you're like it's done. Like
Yeah.
I knew he was going to die when we got the diagnosis. I expected it to be longer, but um so you're just in a complete different place in life than a lot of the people that you're surrounded with, and it's very lonely.
Mm-hmm. So the blogging, you said kind of was like a slow burn at first too, and then to just kind of ground people in the timeline. So diagnosis in 2021, Mike passed away in 2022, and so it was what, like 16, 17 months it would have been. I'm trying to
Yeah, he
think.
lived about
Is
16
my
months.
math working? Yeah, 16 months. What was the first time that you kind of verbalized the idea that this could be a book?
That's a good question. I think when I started so going back, like I
Yeah.
always, my mom was sick and
Hmm.
passed just after my first son was born.
Hmm.
And I watched a lot of what my dad went through. And there were times my dad and I would look at each other and be like, we need to write a book about this. Like people do not get it.
Hmm.
And then like there were times where I was like, when I used to like work in the gym, and I was like, oh, like maybe something health and wellness related. Like I always had this idea in my head, but never thought like, who am I to like write a book? Like I didn't think anything
It
of
seems
it.
like a mythical idea. Like the fact that you
Yeah.
even wrote one still is like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. So once I started blogging and I saw what was
Yeah.
what was coming of it with other people and for myself, I remember even saying it to Mike, and he was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, like you have to do it."
Hmm.
Like so that was a huge encouragement because I knew it was like something for him. I wanted it to be, there was like motivation behind it because I felt like it was like for his legacy and
Hmm.
his memory. I wanted to like share about him,
Hmm.
um, for my kids. It was like all of these thoughts that like
Hmm.
went on that like really like pushed me like, why not do it? And then I also had a good friend, now a good friend, who also lost her husband, because now I have like widow friends. It's like a thing. Like now I'm like connecting.
Little
Like
circle of trust.
yeah. So she also wrote a book, and then I would like connect with her, and we like really just bonded over our experiences, and she made me feel like it's like in within reach,
Hmm.
and connected me with those resources. And then yeah, so I don't even like it was this last spring, I guess, that it was like really really like bothering me, and I'm like, I
Hmm.
feel like this is something I need to do. Like there's more to the story, and
Yeah.
it's the story that's like trapped inside my head almost, and like
Hmm.
feel like could be helpful
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
someone. And anyway, all those thoughts, I was like, why not? Because also I have a terrible
Mhm.
memory, and I'm like, if I don't write this now, I'm going to forget a lot of these details.
Yeah, I'm the
So it's
same
like I
way.
have to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, a lot of authors, which you are now among them, say that they write a story they want to read, or a book that they write the story they need to read. And I'm sure in many ways that's like how that started for you. But who else is this book for?
So it's really for someone in, so it's for Mike and for my kids, of
Mhm.
course. Like that's, I
Yeah.
want my kids to, they'll never remember what we went through. And they were too young to, they were very much experiencing in the moment, but I feel like this is like I documented it, and they can like
Hmm.
know their story and know the details of
Hmm.
their story, because I feel like that's so important for them to have. And if I'm not going
Yeah.
to be able to remember to tell them all these things, I feel like they can go through this. They can see how maybe how I handled certain situations, and I hope they get something from that.
Hmm.
Because I think we handled a lot of difficult situations very well, Mike and I together. I want them to like I wanted to document like our love story for them. So anyway, obviously for them and for my family, for Mike, but really for people who are like in the thick of it,
Hmm.
whether like caregivers or like a new widow
Mhm.
who can see themselves in the book. And
Mhm.
I didn't have, like you said, like I didn't really have that. There were books that I were recommended to me, and I remember reading one or two while Mike was sick, in the time that I had to do that,
Mhm.
but nothing really nothing like if I had read my book then, like that would have
Mhm.
been very meaningful to
Yeah.
me. So yes, I think in a little bit, like it's something that could have helped me, and I hope that by writing it, it helps someone else, and they can see themselves in the book.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Do you
Sorry.
think that maybe those books weren't as helpful because they didn't go as deep as you're going, or like what is the difference there?
I just think certain experiences are different. Like I said, like I've connected with other widows, and they've lost a husband.
Mhm.
Maybe they had kids that were really young, or maybe they had kids that were older, which changes the experience a lot. Like I was like
Okay.
I had a baby at the time, or maybe they lost their husband to from a car accident, or it's just something, and then that is relatable in a lot of ways, but not like the sense that I my whole life revolved around taking care of Mike and his medical
Yeah.
needs for 16 months. So I think just like the
Got it.
experiences are different, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of similarities as well. Um, and
Yeah.
I do think I share a lot about like some really vulnerable moments, like in
Mhm.
his last days, maybe things that were going through my mind in his last moments,
Mhm.
what I did like right after the funeral plan. Like there are just things that I talk about that I don't think I'd read before in a book, and maybe it's out there, but like it wasn't recommended
Mhm.
to me at the time. Um,
Yeah.
so
You mentioned at the start of that you had part of who you had written this for was Dante and Dominic, and you had sent us the dedications and the was it the full first chapter or part of the first chapter? I can't remember. I think it
I
was
think it was the letter to
just the introduction. Yeah.
like the letter to the
Yeah.
reader. Yeah, yeah.
And I was sitting in a coffee shop and I like pop open the doc and I start reading it and I was like, I'm gonna wait till I'm home.
Oh,
I got to like the dedication to Dante and Dominic. I was like, I'm gonna read this one in private.
Yeah.
And it was just so sweet. And then I think also that nighttime mantra is just so sweet you have in the book
yeah,
that you say with them. And I almost thought as I went through that introduction, kind of something that really stuck out to me of like who this is for, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget it. Um, was you said, you were speaking kind of directly to the reader here, saying, because while I can't promise you that all of the unbearable feelings that you're feeling will go away indefinitely, I can promise you that this will be easier. I can promise you that you are not alone, and I can promise that reclaiming joy is possible. I mean, I think that's kind of the perfect description for like who this is for and what this book
yeah,
is. And it's like, while a completely like straightforward kind of statement, it is also there's like that hope within it. So I think it's just like perfect. You're such a good writer.
Oh,
As I've like followed your vlogs and then this, I was like, you're really, really good at this.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think like I I mean I was in that place, right? Like
Hmm.
I was in that place where I didn't see
Hmm.
anything good happening ever again. Like if I didn't have my kids,
Yeah.
like they brought me so much joy every day, even in like the worst of days.
Hmm.
But I was in that place, and I'm not anymore. And it's like that's just such a huge thing for like people to understand is that you won't always be in that place, and it's okay to be there
Hmm.
while you're there. But like it's like I just want people to know like it does get better.
Hmm.
It's still like I still miss Mike every second of the day. Like
Yeah.
it's so hard still, but like I'm like happy, and like I'm in such a different place mentally than I was, and I just feel very strongly about people knowing like they can feel joy again. They
Hmm.
can keep going even though it's so different and it's still so hard at times.
Hmm.
It gets easier, more manageable, I should say.
Yeah. And I'm sure, you said that, this is for people who might be going through something similar, but, also everyone experiences loss. And I'm sure that the lessons in here that you've gathered from maybe one of the most like intense versions of that, are relatable for anybody. You know, as we age too,
Yeah.
it's just a part of life. And when you haven't experienced that yet, maybe, or you're starting to for the first time as you get into your 20s and 30s, like those are extremely valuable, you know, lessons and things that we have to navigate that you're never prepared for. And you've kind of gathered all this up and, you know, shared it with the world, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of gathering it up, to talk specifically about the book, where did you start? Like, how do you go from the decision that I need to write this to,
Yeah.
are you an outliner, or how did you go about
Yeah.
finding it?
Actually, so I started writing the book
Mhm.
while I want to say I started writing it like while Mike was on hospice. I kind of just like took blogs and thoughts and I would add
Mhm.
to them, and so like I had some of it.
Yeah.
And then even like
Okay.
the months after he died, I feel like I was like writing, but it wasn't like I didn't know if anything would actually come of it. I just was like, one day I'll write a book, so I have to like write this stuff down. So I once my friend Whitney connected me to the people that she worked with to write her book. I had like a wonderful book coach that I worked with. And
Mhm.
really, she had a process that helped me go from like these thoughts and this like very generic outline to like this detailed book. And it was really, I can't even explain it. It was so crazy to me how like all of a sudden I had a book and I would just like
Mhm.
write and it would just flow
Yeah.
from like these like stages that I went through with her that I don't even sort of know how I got there. It was just like
Yeah.
we'd outline,
Yeah.
the process that I went through with this book coach was amazing and made it feel so possible
Mhm.
Okay.
and made it all make sense.
What were your habits for writing? Like, were you I mean, because you have two young
You have two
children,
kids? Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like navigating, you know, a relationship and, you know, work and friends. Like, when did you write? How did you write? What was that like?
A lot of it I wrote like after they would go to bed
Mhm.
because a lot like I was just you gotta like keep yourself busy or you
Yeah.
like go crazy.
Yeah.
So I would put my kids to bed and then I would go sit at my desk and write. I have like a playlist that would like help me get in
Yeah.
the writing mode.
What was on the playlist?
Um,
Got to know. One or two songs.
hold on, let me pull it up. Yeah, I'm just like
Did you title the playlist?
it's called Book.
Very creative.
But I had
Weren't
some of
messing
them were
about.
like also on my sad song playlist, which is a
Mhm.
separate playlist. But I had like some of the Lumineers, a
Mhm.
couple songs. I had James
Nice.
Taylor,
Nice.
Maroon 5, just yeah.
Yeah. So
But
nighttime
it,
writer. Are you normally a night owl? Or are you a
no,
morning
I like to
person?
much more a morning
I
person.
thought so.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised
Yeah.
that you were writing at night, but I guess if that's like the time you had to take advantage then. And it was like
Yeah,
your
like
free time
yeah, or like
or
during nap
free
time or
time. Yeah.
something. Like if there were times where like Dante was in
Mhm.
school or maybe like I'm trying to even think what the timeline was, but like Mike's mom, Debbie,
Mhm.
like helps me all the time with the kids, like
Yeah.
all the time. So even like there were times where she'd like hang out with them for a little bit, and I'd like get some work done, and then
Yeah.
I'd try to spend some time writing. So, and it wasn't late. Like but at that time, I was putting my kids to bed by like 7:30. So like it wasn't
Mhm.
even like a night owl like status. I was like not up till
Yeah.
midnight. But I would could still get like 2 hours in. Um,
Mhm.
and I got in a zone with like the outline that I had that there was really it just was easy to write.
Yeah.
I also have some of my blog posts in the book, which helps me um
Mhm.
because I think it was like important to talk about it, but like also give like the real time emotions that I was
Yeah.
experiencing. Yeah.
Nice.
Were there any chapters, I don't want to say that you didn't want to write or fought writing, but that were just harder to like sit down and really get through them? And on the other side of that, were there some chapters where things just flowed out of you and you maybe even had to cut that back a little bit?
Yeah, it was really easy to write the chapters like about our relationship, about Mike being sick. That was like just came out of me because again, it was also like therapeutic for me. So like that would just
Yeah.
come out of me. When I sort of changed my voice, and it's most of the book is in just like, it's like conversational, like
Yeah.
it's from like my experience. But when you talk about like the lessons, it's a little bit more like, what's the word? Like I'm speaking, I'm not an expert at all, but like from my experience, I'm speaking sort of in like an expert mode,
Yeah.
like sharing like, this is, you shouldn't do this, or you should do that. Like,
Yeah.
and that was weird because I don't feel like I'm an expert or at all in this, but to kind of change the tone to share like lessons or something like that. That was really hard for me. Cause I'm used to just writing like in like a conversation style. So those were a little bit harder, and I wanted to make sure they were like meaningful. So when it's more like that versus like just telling my story, like that was a lot harder. But telling the story was easy. I mean, you could write a whole book on dating, marrying your middle school boyfriend. I mean, like,
Yeah, sure. There's lessons in that.
Can I ask a follow up to that?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to answer this, that's okay. But in some of the other podcasts you've done, like Irreplaceable and what was it, Widow We Do Now is the one that just came out. You talked about a little bit about you were going to therapy and you've since stopped, or maybe you're going, I don't know. But in those lessons learned, does some of that come from what you talked about in therapy, or is it more strictly just from the experience?
The lessons I think are more from experience. But so yes, I did go to therapy, and I talk about that in the book too. In the last chapter, I share like steps that helped me heal, and very much talk about therapy. Even like I have to like be cautious saying this, I guess, like you have to talk to a doctor, but like I was on medication. Like there are things that like in my head, I was like, I'm less if I have to use these things as a crutch. Like if I have to go get prescribed like medication to like help my, like then like I'm not as like tough as I thought I was. And it's like, it's just so untrue. And so I do talk about therapy and the importance of that in the last chapter of like things that helped me heal. But in lessons, it's more just maybe like, this is how you can support someone else going through something. Like I've learned that this is so, or maybe like misconceptions about grief, like going through it. I've realized like maybe I thought this before, but it's really just not true. Like there's any timeline, or there's like this, or you get over it, or you like you move on. Like there's just things like that in the lessons. But I do talk about therapy. I went to therapy while Mike was sick. We went together a couple of times. I took a break from it because it was, I should have kept up with it. I just couldn't keep up with it. But the writing was like my form of therapy, and I got a lot more out of that than talking to someone. But I did revisit it. Me and the boys went to our, what we call the feelings doctor. And she talked to all of us, and I loved it. We just decided to take a little bit of a break because, one, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And they're in a lot of activities, and they're like in a really good place too. So I was like, let's just take a little bit of time because we have other things that we have to do, and then we'll revisit it maybe in the summer. But so totally love therapy. Like I think everyone should go to therapy.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll continue writing, and what does that look like in the future? Is it more blogging or maybe another book of some sort? Do you think you'll dabble in fiction?
I don't think fiction. Well, I have this. I would love to. I don't know if I can write. So I feel like I can only write like well because I was like super inspired by sharing this story. So if there's something, I have to think about that. But I would love to. I have also this thought that I'm going to write a children's series, and it's a series of Michael Motorcycle.
Oh my God!
And this was like,
Please do.
I was like juggling that or writing this book, like because I thought that was like such a cute little series. But I don't know. I hope so, but I also write. I would love to do keep blogging because I have really not been blogging so much because I've been focusing on the book. And I also do grant writing. Like I write a lot in general, but maybe another book. I mean, I would like to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Children's book series would be cool.
We'll see. I
Yeah,
think
it's a
that'd be
great
cool.
idea. I like that. Any other questions you have, Nick?
That's all I got.
Yeah, I was
on
gonna
the
just
book.
ask them to close that out. So for someone considering picking this up, what would you say to that person that you hope that they get out of this?
Oh gosh. I want someone to pick up this book, and again, like I think it can help in various situations.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily think you need to be a widow. Like you said, like so many people experience grief in different ways. Like probably more common like your parents or grandparents at this, point, but I just want someone to look at it and read it and feel and be like, yes, that's how I feel. And like,
Yeah.
because there's so many feelings and thoughts that like you can't understand unless you're living it. And I think like that's the whole point for someone to read it and just be like, yes, like nobody gets that. Nobody else gets that. That's like my biggest hope with the book is just that someone can feel that, because that feeling is like everything when you're going through it. Like that feeling is so, so important. And I get that once in a while with like when I'd find I would join like brain cancer like Facebook groups and communities and connect with people on social media again. And once in a while when I would get that, it was like a game changer.
Yeah.
Like I was like I needed to like chase that connection and like foster it, because that was so, so healing. And so I just hope that someone can feel that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's even helpful for, like I said, even though people, hopefully do not go through your exact experience, but of just even reading it, like I always think of what you've described before, and I forget if this is just in person or in the podcast, of like, it's better to just reach out and, talk to people, even if you don't know what to say or how to say it. And I was thinking of that, whenever I see something that kind of comes across my daily life that like makes me think of Mike. And I think a couple of weeks ago I said, you like that song that I thought of when like Mike and I were at the beach that one summer. It's like, no, like I shouldn't resist sending that because I think it will make you sad. I'm like, wait, this is bringing me happiness. Like this could bring happiness to Becca too. And like, I think some people just don't even know how to interact with emotions, especially, people on the younger end of the spectrum, that I'm sure that this is helpful for them to just like realize it's okay to share things. And it's better to share something or say something than not say anything at all.
Like absolutely 100%, because when people talk about Mike and send me things, it makes it feel like real. Like otherwise you're like, is anyone else thinking about this? Like, am I the only one still thinking about like how sad this is? Like, and it makes you, you'll never make someone sad. Like we already know what happened. Like we're living it.
You're not ignorant of it. Yeah.
You're not like gonna tell me something I don't know. Like to keep talking about that person, to share those moments, are important. And people would even like, I would screenshot messages that I got because I want to like save them from my kids to read one day about like maybe if someone said how Mike impacted them. So they can get an idea of like who he was. So yeah, there's things like that, or like what to say, what not to say, that like I also talk about in the book. But
yeah, that's amazing. So first question I have for you, transitioning the discussion. Do you remember one of the first movies you and Mike saw at Regal Cinemas together in Horsham?
I really don't, and I want to remember so bad.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I also feel like we would like buy tickets, go to the movies,
you would
and then like
leave 20 minutes in.
And
go to
like,
Burger
not
King.
Pay attention. Yes.
God,
so like, I don't even know.
The amount of time we spent in that freaking Burger. I'm Googling the top movies of 2006 right now so that we can at least guess.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing as I was writing that question for you. I was like, I hardly remember any of the movies we walked into in middle school because you did not pay attention at all. Like all it was like, got to find out what time the girls are going to the movies and what one they're walking into. And that's all you needed to know.
Yeah. I remember like that we would walk around, not sit through a movie or pay attention, so.
Yeah. It's just how it goes. Curious, what is Becca Machete's favorite movie?
Oh gosh. This is funny, and this is something like Matthew said. Like, I am
Yeah.
so uncultured when it comes to
Yeah.
movies. Like, I don't know movies and shows. Like, he and like even
Kardashians.
Mike, like hard. I mean, like you can talk to me about The Bachelor. Like, if you want to talk about The Bachelor, like I'm in on that
Yeah.
conversation. But I don't know. I never was a movie person.
Yeah.
Like Mike would quote movies, and like I didn't know what he was talking about half the time. Or like
Yeah.
Seinfeld. Like everyone around me quotes Seinfeld, and I'm like I don't like know what it's from. So
Just not for you.
I'm just not a. I was never. I don't really watch TV much,
Mm-hmm.
or there was a long period of time where I just really didn't watch TV. But Bachelor,
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you watch Vanderpump?
that's like no, but I've heard that's good.
Man,
Don't though.
that is probably the top of reality TV for me right now.
Is it?
I don't even know what it is.
Okay.
What is
And
it?
there's like 11 seasons. It's still going. You can start at the beginning and you are on a ride. Man.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe I feel like I've been in like a weird place. Like I need a good show right now. But like, Love is Love is Blind. Like those.
I'm
things
pretty
too.
sure Alyssa is over there watching that. Or no, sorry. She said The Circle new season just came out. So I think that's what she's watching. Or it's Love is Blind. I don't know. It's one of those two. But I haven't ventured into
those
that.
get my attention. Yeah.
I was also thinking about the irony of how into Spider-Man Dante and Dominic are, because Mike would superhero. I mean, Mike had the most mature taste for like a 7 or 8-year-old in general when we were kids.
Yes.
Superheroes, fantasy, sci-fi, he was out, hard out. So like the fact that his 2 children are like obsessed with Spider-Man, it makes me so happy.
Yeah. They love it. They love all the superheroes, always dressing up as superheroes. Like, yeah.
Yeah. When I think at that same age, Mike was more of getting the hip hop magazines, either XXL or Rap Pages. And, Mrs. DiTore, if you're listening to this, she would have to cut out the pictures of the women in the rap magazine so Mike and I wouldn't look at them. But we were interested in the articles. But I'm not sure I would have found Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, Biggie, if it wasn't for somehow Mike DiTore living the suburbia life, obsessed with hip hop. And I just like, I don't even know how he got into it.
I really don't either. Like I don't know. He was like that, and he would wear like the shoes. Like I think I even say that like the shoes, and like he knew all the music. Yeah, I don't know where that started. That's a good question for
we should ask her.
Speaking of Mike and music, I have this one distinct memory where Mike and I overlapped on almost everything we listened to, right? Like when I listen to all my favorite bands, Mike's the first thing that comes to mind because we saw all of them together. With one exception, and that is Limp Bizkit. And I could not stand Limp Bizkit, but he loved them. And there's this one, I don't know if we were in high school or college, but he wanted to get this like $400 like backstage package to like go meet them. Do you remember this, Becca? Because I got a text from you asking me to go to that because you were like, I really, really don't want to.
I don't remember, but I believe that 100%. I believe that.
I was just like any other band, I would have said yes, but I couldn't do it. Not for Limp Bizkit. I'm sorry.
He had such a wide interest in music, like from like Aaron Lewis, which was like something that we always like connected on, and then to like taking him, like he'd go to like Korn concerts and like headbang and do all that, and I'm like, it was like such a wide, very eclectic music interest. But
I think it was due to, I remember Mrs. DiTore had some sort of hookup where someone could get burned CDs and DVDs at a time where that was like, people didn't know how to do that yet. Like, it was like a superpower. And I remember Mike had this huge book of CDs that like some guy had just burned for him. So I think also, I'm like, I remember my mom was like asking Mrs. DiTore, like, where did you get this from? Because Randy really wants to get all these like free CDs and DVDs. But she wouldn't give us the hookup. So I think that also influenced his taste a bit. Was wherever this came from.
I'm learning so much right now. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have to ask her.
Yeah. The one I sort of iconic thing that always makes me think of Mike movie wise, which you recently rewatched, which I'm interested to hear how that experience was Tommy Boy.
Mm.
And I'm not sure how it sort of came up with us, but there was some point in our childhood where Mike and I realized we both were obsessed with this movie. And I have one sort of vivid memory of we went down classic summer shore trip in like 7th grade. And the house that we were staying at, thanks, Mrs. DiTore, had a VHS of Tommy Boy. And I'm not even kidding. In a week span, Mike and I must have watched it like 10 times, just quoting it endlessly. Like we weren't going to the boardwalk. We weren't going to the beach. We were just watching this movie. So I have to know, how was the rewatch of it? You said you watched it it was last weekend?
Yeah, I just watched it. Yeah, probably last weekend. And because I knew we are going to talk about this stuff. And that's a movie that comes to mind right away when you ask about Mike's favorite movies. But we probably watched it over a decade ago. I don't remember. I was almost as I was watching, I was like, oh, now this is coming back to me a little. But there are definitely lines in the movie, and you'll have to tell me on the most. I can hear Mike saying them, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that." I can hear him saying that, and I didn't necessarily connect it over the years that was from Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
But it was good. It's funny, but we had such a different sense of humor. I didn't think The Office, for example. I don't think stupid humor. I don't know. I don't think a lot of that's funny, and he'd be hysterical, and I just I don't know why I don't think a lot of that's funny, but I just think maybe I'm boring, but I don't have the same sense of humor, but it's a good movie. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
I remember. I was telling Debbie about this because Mike is a lot like Dante, a very, very gentle soul.
Yeah.
And I remember Debbie saying Mike was so sad when the dad collapsed at the wedding. Mike loved
we would
the movie,
fast forward through it,
but it just made him so sad. Which I just thought was so sweet.
Yeah, that was always tough because you're riding such a high in the wedding scene, and then just tragedy. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what was great about comedies with Mike is I just always think of Mike's laugh and just truly the best laugh where it was just the kind that eggs you on even further, where you start to forget what you're even laughing about at some point because you're just laughing with him. And I think two of my other big memories with him around that were seeing Superbad in theaters when I guess we would have been in high school then. But it was such a parallel experience. I'm pretty sure it was 2008 where, they're getting ready. 2007. They're getting ready for college in the movie, to go off, and they're worried about oh, will we still be friends? And they're trying to pick up girls before they go, away to college, and they're going through all those. And it had Mike in one of those fits where Mike he could no longer breathe when he was laughing, so he wasn't making his great Mike sounds, but he was doing the thing where Mike used to hold his ribs and rock back and forth when he laughed.
Yes, I could see it.
Yeah. And I just remember him doing that in the chair in the movie theater. We weren't even 5 minutes into the movie, and he was just toppled over. So that was a big one.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah. I love that so much.
Any others come to mind for Nick? What do you got?
Not senior week, but the year after when we were in Ocean City, Maryland, didn't we all go see The Hangover 3 or something to get whatever Hangover came out at that time is the one we 10 of us went to the movie theater to see together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was, we had such a good time on senior week all together that next summer we were all let's do it again.
we shared a room, Becca. You, me, and Mike, we all shared a room at senior week.
Did we? I remember Mike got strep throat halfway through it. Do you remember?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But I don't remember I have a terrible memory, but I remember
you, me, Mike, and my girlfriend at the time. We don't need to use her name.
So curious to know, because with some of this stuff, you and Mike had a little bit of different tastes when it comes to the TV movie. So typical night, maybe at this point, just have Dante, he goes down to bed. What do Becca and Mike throw on to watch? How does that decision-making process happen?
So our shows were like so different than like the ones that you guys like connect. So like go-to shows if nothing's on, Catfish. Mike was obsessed with Catfish. Like loved Neve.
He does love that type of stuff.
Yes. And then there was a period of time where like it was, I think Neve and Max were the two. Do you guys know Catfish?
I know I used to watch it on MTV.
I know Neve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Neve. So he like Max, the host or whatever left, and Mike was like, I could be Neve's partner. I could like he was like he loved Neve. And anyway, so whenever we didn't know what to watch, we just put on reruns of Catfish, or Shark Tank, or we would get into a lot of like Netflix series like Wentworth or Orange is the New Black or Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
we watched Breaking Bad.
You joined him on that journey, Breaking Bad?
We probably watched it all like 3 or 4 times, honestly.
Yeah.
We rewatched it. We loved Breaking Bad. And then like, like the Kardashians and Bachelor Mystic, he was like a little bit of a guilty pleasure. Like he would totally be into like Bachelor in Paradise with me and stuff.
Yeah.
But those are like the shows that would come to mind if we weren't like in a show.
Yeah. Did you watch The Sopranos with him?
I didn't. I really want to watch it now.
Yeah.
And he rewatched a lot of it like while he was sick. Like he'd sit in a lot of it like with his mom. They'd rewatch it, and so I really want to, but I didn't watch it with him. Like a lot of those shows, and like again, he loves Seinfeld. He's always quoting Seinfeld, but like I never like him and my brothers would like go back and forth, and like I just never got it.
Yeah, Sopranos is one of those things where I was really into The Sopranos, and whenever the memes come across my Instagram feed, there is still like a little bit of habit to get ready to send it to Mike, because that was like one thing we just used to always send to each other. So maybe you're just about to start getting those. I'm just gonna have to forward them over to you, even though you've never. Or maybe it'll give you the itch to watch them.
Maybe. I could totally start watching it. I need a new show.
Yeah. The other I was thinking about was Mike was really into. We both were King of Queens.
100%. Yeah.
We were real in Kevin James. For some reason, he scratched the itch that Mike and I had in the comedy world. And there was a period where we had the same homeroom, and we would come in, we would discuss the episode from the day before, because it was always on right when we got home from high school. And we had this great idea the one day after there was this episode where Doug, texts Carrie or calls her while she's at work to ask what's for dinner that night. And we just thought it was like the funniest thing ever, because Carrie got like so mad. So Mike and I were like, let's text our moms and see what's for dinner tonight. And like our moms were not thrilled with it. they were like, it's 10 a.m. I'm trying to work. Why are you asking me what we're eating for dinner? Mike and I were like, yeah, that wasn't a good idea.
He did love that. He even like, again, like always would just watch reruns of it. I think like his whole family. Nicole loves it, his sister, and that's like a go-to. Just if you want to watch reruns and be entertained. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? As you look at Dante and Dominic, their tastes, are they gonna, as they grow up, do you think they're gonna gravitate to the stuff Mike liked? Do you think they're gonna be back? I mean, because they're seeming to be forging their own path of that neither of you two are on, which was the superhero stuff.
That's a really good question. They like the superheroes, but their personalities are like so different. So like Dante, like Dominic, like loves Blink-182, like wants to like
love it.
Like listen to
Nice.
and Dante is like loves more like musical, like theater. He loves singing and dancing. But he's also like seems to be interested in like baseball and certain things. But as for like shows, I don't. They watch such like stupid shows right now, like Dante's like super like Teen Titans right now, which I don't even like. It's just so silly to me. But so I don't know. But it's just interesting because even the two of them, like their interests are like they're attached at the hip, but their interests are so different. Like Dante wants to swing, Dom's like skateboarding.
Yeah.
Like they're very different. but I could see Dom being like at a concert, like rocking out.
Doing the
I feel like I could totally
headbang.
see him doing the head banging. Yeah, like his raspy voice, like yeah.
Yeah, is that
I
too
feel like I
intense
could
for
see that.
Dante? Or sorry, yeah, Dante. Yeah, is that too
For
intense?
Dante, he's a little bit. It's like they're both like a part of
Yeah.
Mike, because he has
Mhm.
like Mike's very like gentle heart. Oh,
Mhm.
Dom does too. Like I don't like they're both so sweet and kind, but like Dante, you can just tell he's a little bit more like emotional with
Yeah.
things. It's just things like hit him a little bit different. So I don't know if I see him like headbanging or like, you know, in a mosh pit or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could maybe like close my eyes and picture Dom there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
We'll
have to
see. I
take
don't
them
know.
to
Yeah.
see Korn on their 30th
Yeah.
year.
What do you mean?
from that album.
You're not going to take him to Limp Bizkit?
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny? Like
That's
I feel like
Becca's job.
I feel like
I can't-
yeah.
I can't
I
do
feel
that
like I would
one.
almost like I would almost like have to.
You have
Like,
to, yeah.
I feel like I would have to. Because like Mike and I think it was the people from college, but maybe I think it was the people from college that they were supposed to go
Mm-hmm.
in May of 2022
Mm-hmm.
or June, but he was like getting really bad and like obviously couldn't go, but they
Mhm.
bought tickets, and I don't think anyone went to
Mhm.
that concert because they just felt it wasn't right without Mike. But I do feel like if my kids were like, we need to like go experience Limp Bizkit, I feel like
Yeah.
I wouldn't go with Mike, but I guess I feel like I have to
Yeah.
go.
You have to at that point.
Randy and I will fly in and go with you. So
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
at Limp Bizkit alone.
Gosh.
One question that I had, do you know if Mike actually liked Borat, or did he just like Dave doing a Borat impression?
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just putting our friend Dave on blast right now.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the impression was top. Like,
Yeah.
Like definitely was the impression. Oh my gosh. That's so funny because I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Dave was obsessed with it. And I think
But-
me and Mike I don't know if we pretended his impression was good so he would continue to do it more. And because it just,
That is exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave had one of those senses of humor where he was probably the person who could get Mike going the most with just being himself.
Him.
Yeah. And that was a hallmark was Borat. But I never knew if you actually liked the movie or not.
It wasn't one that like we talked about.
I mean
but,
on a usual night, you don't just throw on Borat.
No. But I can definitely remember Dave
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we call Dave? Can we get a very
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah.
Get one of those for them.
Get him to do it and like add it in.
Another core memory I had was we would have been post college at this point, and the Straight Outta Compton movie was coming out, and I remember Dave, Mike, and I were very pumped for this. And this was when I was living at this point. It was like an hour and a half away from you guys, and I drove home on a weeknight for us to go see it, and then drove home after. But we were, I mean, at that point, you weren't going to the movies much. You know, they kind of were dying off a little bit then. But we went and we were so excited, you know, and this was Mike's peak sort of, you know, 90s gangster rap. Absolutely. He was probably the one who introduced me to NWA, somehow as a 6-year-old. But that was a core memory. We had a good time. He probably, I don't know if Dante would have been born yet.
I was going to say, what year did you say that was?
Straight Outta Compton probably came out in 2015 or 16.
Okay.
So this would have been before.
Like
you would have just been
2018.
married, actually. Yeah.
just married or engaged. Yeah. 2015. So we were like engaged.
Yeah. So it was a little easier to go see something. Any other movie or TV shows that kind of make you think of Mike?
We watched, what is the movie or the show? It's like they're at a lake, but they're like drug dealers. They like have a casino.
Ozark.
You know what show? Ozark. Yeah, that's one. We would watch that all the time. So like we would watch that. We would watch like This Is Us, which we were really into, which like, you know, is just depressing now. But a lot of those shows we would just like binge watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Breaking Bad's like the one because I just couldn't remember us sitting like in my my room in college in my house in Manayunk, like watching it on our iPad, I guess, or computer laptop. And then I remember being in his apartment with like Rocky and like us just binge watching it like on a weekend. Like that we spent so much time on. But there were a lot of just series that we would just, put the kids to bed and just like spend the next 4 hours watching.
Yeah. Did you watch Better Call Saul, or did you just cut it off at Breaking Bad?
I did not. We didn't watch that. Maybe because that was out. Oh, that's been out for a while. I feel like maybe Mike maybe we tried to like an episode or two.
Yeah.
I'm like, if something doesn't like captivate me in the first like minute of a show, I'm like,
Becca's
next.
out.
Like I need to be like really, really into
Becca's
it.
not
Like
even
right
getting
away.
to like the theme song. She's shutting shows down.
I need like some serious, excitement in the first couple minutes to be able to stick to a show.
Mm-hmm. Something else core, Mike DiTore, which Nick will be able to relate to a lot, was there was one point in elementary school when the WWF had just basically a chokehold on every boy in 4th or 5th grade. And Mike got latched onto Stone Cold Steve Austin and was obsessed with him. And that was another one where these days, if a meme comes across my way of Stone Cold, like I was considering going into Mike and I's Instagram chat and counting how many memes we sent to each other of this. But I was like, I'm never going to get through them all to be able to tell you. But that was something else that he just loved a lot. It was a big part of our Hollowell experience.
Mike's on the Hollowell playground smashing soda cans together.
Oh. I'm trying to think. I was talking to Debbie about that, Mike's mom about this.
Yeah.
And she said Rock of Love.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
she said that was like, he loved that. And then another one we were talking about that everybody was like, whenever, it was funny, like whenever again, nothing was on, for some reason, Jurassic Park is always on.
Yep.
It's like always on because there's like 100 of them. So I was like, we're not watching Jurassic Park. And he would always love watching Jurassic Park.
My guy.
But Rock of Love, I didn't really know. But when after talking, to his mom, that was like something that he was super into.
He was very into those MTV VH1 shows in general back in the day. Like Pimp My Ride was kind of core Mike DiTore, like very into that. Or Room Raiders. Just couldn't peel him away from the TV.
What was the one with Flava Flav? And he was looking for
Flavor of Love.
Flavor of Love. Did you watch that one too?
I don't think he liked it as much as Rock of Love. But he did like, because Flava Flav was in Public Enemy. So that was...
Yeah.
Mike also... I don't know how he had his memory for music and songs and like... He had such a wealth of knowledge with that stuff. I don't know how he retained it all.
I don't either. He really did, though. He did. He just knew a lot. Like he just,
Yeah. For some reason, though, those like reality shows on MTV VH1 just really got him. He was like the target demographic for that.
He was. It feels so fitting. Another one, Eastbound and Down. Because that was another one his mom said.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know, but another one we would watch now. It's like coming. See, we were all over the place. Like we'd watch First 48 a lot in college, where like there's a crime and like they like
aren't those true crimes?
I think it is.
First 48 true crime.
They're like real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they have like 48 hours. Yeah. So we would get into those episodes quite a bit too. So we watched all kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just always very into, he like real life stuff, whether it was a reality show or something that was like plausible. As soon as it was like escaping out of that plausibility, it was a hard cut for him. Which, like I said, makes me laugh about the Spider-Man thing. But that was just where Mike and I differed a lot, because like he humored me with me being obsessed with Harry Potter as a kid, but it was just something he was not touching.
Yeah. No.
Not at all. Anything else you got, Nick?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other final ones on your end, Becca?
Not that I can think of. No, I think those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. And like I said, it is comedies is a little bit of what I think of, and I think it is just always just thinking of his laugh, and it's so great. And I think it is it's just it's so easy to slip into platitudes when like talking about people, especially after they pass. But he really was just such a great person, and it's not even dramatic to say that everyone loved. Um, and I do feel like that overshadows a little bit how great you are, Becca, and everything you've done, with this book.
Oh,
And we haven't even mentioned you started a foundation as well. So you've just done all these incredible things. So I feel, so grateful to be able to call you a friend and talk to you here today to get ready for the launch of this.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
We need to talk about this foundation though.
Yeah.
You've got a golf outing coming up too. Do you want to give us a little bit of background, and then we'll talk about what's upcoming and how people can get involved?
Sure. So last year we did our first golf outing. We raised money for the boys, like a college, like a trust for the boys. And so, but it was super successful. It's like a ton of work, which I had no idea, but it was just an idea that we had, and we're like, so with that, I wanted to continue that tradition. And so I thought, maybe starting a nonprofit to raise money for each year. So we started the Michael L. DiTore Small Moments Foundation, and our mission is to create small moments of joy for children who've lost a parent or sibling to cancer. So we're brand new, very small. Like, we've served about 6 families so far, but since September, we're just launching in September. We launched on the anniversary of Mike's passing. So it's really just this idea that, like, when after a lot of the like padding and like the support kind of dissipates after someone dies, a couple months after someone dies, and we just want to provide like this little spark of joy for children. And I remember personally being out and doing things with my kids, and it doesn't have to be some huge thing, but like we'd be out and we'd be laughing and having a good time, and it was just this realization that like I can feel happy with them. We can create special memories, just the 3 of us. But we can also grieve and feel really sad. But like that doesn't have to be everything. Like, we can still have these experiences. So that's where the inspiration came from. So moving forward, the golf outing and all other events that we have will be to raise money for Small Moments, which our second golf outing is September 16th this year. And registration opens May 1st. So I hope, we sold out really quick last year. I'm hoping that we have the same success this year. And it's all going towards the foundation and growing that and reaching more people.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, that's incredible. We'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so
Just
happy.
Hacking it up again.
Yeah.
So for everyone looking to pick up the book, digital version on Amazon, April 30th. Physical version is going to be available on May 7th. We're going to put links in the show notes. Anything else regarding the book or the tournament that you want to shout out?
No, I mean, we're, again, registration opens May 1st. We're in the process of like finding partners. So if you know anyone who's interested as a business, we're going to do a program book this time to like put ads for all of our partners in there and on our website and on our social media, and we'll announce at the reception and everything. So I'm looking for partners, excited for people to register. The foundation is smallmomentsfoundation.org. So again, you said you'll add links, but people can learn more if you can just go on the website and make a nomination if you know someone who is eligible. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, with that, Becca, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and share your story. So, like I said, such a great person, so inspired by what you do and what you've been doing, and I'm even more excited to see what more you do, especially if we get this children's series. But I'm excited to read the full book, and for everyone listening, next time you watch Step Brothers or Dumb and Dumber or Tommy Boy, think of our friend Mike and how much he loved those things. So thanks, everybody.
I love that. Thank you guys so much. This was really fun.